gunfight actually. Yeah. All right, Rome are trying to take back Rome. It's a desperate attempt, I would say.
Oh, so we got a good old battle then. Pretty large army Darren has. So we are heavily outnumbered. We have no missiles. Oh, we have some missiles. Rome has made their stand, and this is the fight for the city itself. Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Jackie Fish, and welcome back to another glorious Divide et Impera online battle. This is taken from the head-to-head between me and Republic of Play, the multiplayer campaign, and this has to be probably my favorite battle we've had throughout this entire streaming campaign, because it was just so goddamn crazy. So, a little backstory. At this current moment in time, Rome has fallen. Darren has completely invaded Italy, and he has pushed the once glorious city to her knees. The Roman legions are defeated and have retreated back to Greece. Now, granted, Rome still have the whole of Greece itself, and also kind of past the Danube a little bit as well. So Rome are definitely not destroyed, but their foothold in Italy is gone. And this is kind of the last legion that is still remaining in Italy itself. And oh baby, do they put up an amazing last stand. They actually make a beeline for the city of Rome itself and charge forward to engage Darren's weakened forces. Because Darren's been on campaign in Italy for several years now, and that's taken its toll. Darren doesn't have the manpower or the population to constantly replenish his units, so he's having to use local militia and other infantry units that aren't as strong as his more African infantry and units that he's bringing from there. So because of that, Rome has this final chance to defeat these armies and take the city. However, she is not fully advanced in this force. This is just one legion that has been brought to bear. This is a full legion, so this is a 20 unit army, so it's still pretty gnarly. It's not like the worst. I believe also there is maybe some reinforcements in this battle. I honestly can't remember. Actually, no, there isn't any reinforcements in this battle. However, we still have a pretty nice army. Unfortunately, the Roman AI hasn't advanced their units. They haven't gone ahead and proceeded them into the sword and shield infantry units, so I am still using early Principes. However, these guys are still pretty good. They're not awful. They're not the worst unit in the world. They can definitely still hold their own. I would obviously, in a field battle, much prefer the sword and shield one, but we've got to, at the end of the day in these head-to-heads, you've got to just kind of take what you're given in these battles, because you get to play as the AI against your opponent. So, it is what it is. But I know for a fact with Darren's army, Darren has about a stack and a half. However, some of his units are depleted. As you can see, with balance of power, Darren does have the favor, just slightly. This battle, obviously, generally, when it's an even battle, the battles generally do seem to sway between, towards the player who initiated the battle, whose player is actually playing their faction. Because generally speaking, they'll have the better army composition because they would have built it themselves, whereas obviously me, or when Darren's playing against me as one of my AI factions, you generally just have to get given, you generally don't have a lot of cavalry. Sometimes the AI makes funky builds, so for the most part the AI is gonna always have the disadvantage unless they're bringing more units. And at this point I'm outnumbered by about half an army. However, some of them units are depleted. I know for a fact that Darren has a buttload of missiles in his army. I also know that he is coming on from this corner right here with his reinforcements, which he'll obviously want to meet up with. So right now, my main strategy in this battle, you can't see his army yet, but I know he's spawning in over here as I saw his reinforcements. I know for a fact that he has a ridiculous amount of missiles. So for me, as a player, my quick decision is I need to rush him, and I need to get inside this forest. Because if I can get inside this forest, that will give me a huge bonus to my missile resistance, and he won't be able to use his Balearic slingers as effectively as he would if I engaged him out on the open field. Not only that, I know Darren has more cavalry than me. So again, I want to try and just push on his position as fast as I can, because if I can get in them woods and engage the battle in them woods, then Darren doesn't get to use his cavalry as effectively, because it's slowed up in forest. It's not as effective as in forest, so I can really use that to my advantage. So that's kind of some of the really like awesome stuff in these head-to-heads. It's all about that split decision about me diving forward, and you'll see how clutch it is. Because right now, Darren can't see me. There's a huge forest in the way. Most his men are over here, moving to the open field, obviously. And quite quickly, my army is going to be coming into view. You can see some of his reinforcements coming on. And again, you know, it's pretty difficult to make these military maneuvers when you've got 30. I think Darren had about 35 units in this battle, and I had like 20 something. You know, it's quite hard to achieve these huge military maneuvers, because if I catch Darren maneuvering over here into the open field, which is obviously where he's aiming to get to, I catch half his army there, I'm going to cut the head off the snake. In Divide et Impera, it's extremely hard to move units. Like, I'm pretty sure this heavy infantry is running in quotation marks right now, and you can see how slow it is. Yeah, these guys are supposed to be running. They're kind of running at max speed. And you can see just, oh, actually, no, now they're running, okay. Well, you can just see, like, how, you know, slow units do move in this game, especially in the forest. So because of that, you know, like, military maneuvers take a long time compared to, like, vanilla or something, which is so goddamn awesome. So, you know, this ability, you know, catching Darren off guard came down to several things in this battle. You know, one, my immediate decision to try and fight in this forest. Two, the slowness of how fast, you know, move, how slow hoplites and other units do move. And obviously the fact that, you know, Darren couldn't see me. The line of sight played a huge part in this, because he couldn't see my army, and, you know, how fast I was barreling down on him. Because again, in this battle, Rome attacked Darren, meaning I have to go to him. So if, for example, if Darren would have deployed his army over here, or if he would have just ran from the beginning, like, I think he was not expecting me to come full long down the hill at him, because he outnumbers me kind of heavily. And so I think he was, like, thinking he'd have time, and I would, like, you know, kind of maybe slowly move out down the hill at him. So yeah, like, there's just, like, so many elements in this battle which made it so exciting. And again, you know, it'd be amazing if I won this battle. You know, Rome has the ability to maybe take back Italy. I'd kill, maybe take out some pretty valuable units and armies. But again, it's all about doing damage. Because Darren is campaigning abroad, he doesn't have the population to replenish all of his units. And that just slows you down. You know, that's kind of the biggest killer in Divide et Impera, is just kind of replenishment, is the ability to, you know, to keep the momentum up, keep the armies going forward. So, you know, every step of the way, you just want to try and deplete the enemy units as best as you can. So that's what it's all about, because if I can slow Darren up, it allows me over in the Seleucid territory to keep my campaign going, and Darren's obviously trying to do the same thing. So Darren does at this point notice that I am coming headlong at him. Some of my units do go hidden again in the forest, which is nice, but he does see me, and he is obviously just making that beeline for the open land. He wants to have that battle over there as best as he can, but I'm going to be trying just to pursue him as quickly as I can. I've even got some cavalry moving up as well. As, you know, this kind of probing tactic is very, very useful in Divide et Impera. Not only does it cause, like, you know, confusion, Darren quickly has to turn around and try and stop me from engaging him here, and that means that the rest of his armies kept carrying on moving, so he wants to also try his best to, as he turns around and tries to charge some hoplites, but we get out of there. You know, Darren at this point is trying to obviously try and slow my cavalry up as best as he can, but, you know, by doing that, I'm drawing units off, and that's meaning that Darren doesn't want to, you know, leave these units behind, because they'll just get enveloped and killed. So right now, you know, things are my plan is kind of working. Darren has got a large amount of his force out there, and this is kind of where I decide to make my battle plan right here. You know, I'm like, okay, he's going to get some men out on this left flank, but the majority of his force is inside. And the majority of his force is heavy hoplites, right? So these guys aren't fast. And Darren's going to have to make a decision soon whether he just kind of sacrifices a rear guard or goes in defense. And that's exactly what Darren decides to do. He goes, I'm not going to sacrifice units here. I have to just defend in the forest, which is amazing for me. My pressure worked wonders. And, you know, if I was like 2 seconds, if I was like 20 seconds later, Darren's entire army would have been out of his forest, and I would have had to attack him. And if he would have had his army outside the position, he would have obviously just carried on going and forced the engagement over here, because Rome attacked him, so I have to go to him and engage him. So Darren gets to pick kind of where the battle does take place, but I kind of took that away from him. So now we are fighting. Now, obviously, fighting in the forest isn't amazing for me, because these Pila isn't going to be as effective, but it hugely outweighs the negatives I would have suffered by fighting in the open field. Then Balearic Slingers and his javelins would have slaughtered me. It would have been brutal. My cavalry also did lose, you know, 5 horses there, but again, I think that cavalry engagement, charging some of his units, was amazing. Like, that slowed him up massively. And now that my Peter has been thrown, my infantry is moving forward. You can see that Darren is pushing all of his missiles out on this flank, so he has some pretty scary units. Balearic Slingers, obviously one of the best missiles in the entire game. He has some really brutal bowmen. These guys are actually amazing, even though they don't look it, because they have this spear. So when you fight cavalry with this spear, unless the shot cavalry like annihilates them, they then do really good against cavalry. So a lot of the time you throw melee cavalry into these guys, the initial charge will be brutal, but then after time they really start to rack up kills because they've got that spear. He also has a unit of elephants as well. So yeah, Darren's army is mainly made up of these hoplites right here, which are native to Italy itself. These are a area of recruitment unit he's got because he can't field his African troops because he obviously doesn't have a population to do it in Divided Impera. So he's having to field a lot of these I guess quote unquote inferior men, but they're still pretty decent. You know, they're still standard. And especially when Darren's using them in coalition with his African units, you know, they definitely can do pretty good. But they're never going to stand up one-on-one to a Principe unit or a Triarii. However, you know, Darren's, you know, strategy in this battle is to try and avoid them 1v1 engagements as best as he can and, you know, double up and try and break through. So I know at this point in the battle that my right flank just needs to hold. I know that my center will, and my left flank will smash him. You know, it's Principes, again, they're not sword Principes, but they're still very good. I know that they will rip through his line, and I just need to bide myself time, because eventually this front line will crumble. However, it's whether or not my right flank can do the job and can get stuck in and can survive this missile onslaught, as well as all of his cavalry. Darren has about 6 units of cavalry, I think. I have about 2, which is pretty goddamn scary. Also, them elephants are going to be deadly, and all this missile fire. Look at all the arrows and slings coming in. He is quite quickly going to rack up a lot of kills. You know, the first couple of volleys, probably not too much, but quite quickly, these men are going to drop very quickly, and that's scary because these guys are pretty decent, you know. They're not the worst unit in the world, they're not the best unit in the world, but they have a high defense, so again, exactly what I need from this front line. And all, as I said, all we're waiting is for this front line to break. And it's going to be a little while. Obviously, hoplites, regardless of whether they're native or area of recruitment or whatever, you know, they're going to be hard to break. And again, I'm using, you know, spear Principes, so I'm not really going to cut through them as effectively maybe as I would like. I do actually have a small overlap on this flank though, which I do kind of commit to and try and push my advantage. However, Darren does quite quickly engage me here, and just look how amazing that looks in the forest. I always love these forest battles. I think they look so cinematic. And a lot of the time when you're fighting them, you're looking at them from this. Like, this is how we were commanding the battle. I know you can remove the tree foliage, but I think it takes away completely the enjoyment of the battle. Like, it's a forest. It's supposed to be extremely hard to see for both parties. Now, I don't think Darren plays without foliage. I hope he doesn't, because, yeah, this is kind of what the battle is all about right now. And just imagine commanding a huge battle like this. It's just like, am I winning the forest? I have no idea, which made the battle even more exciting. It was just really fun engagement. And again, you can see my men are doing a great job in this forest, doing a lot of deadly damage. And even my swords are doing an amazing job as well. I have like 2 units of Italian swords, which I think have really good stats. Yeah, they have 10 melee attack, which is very nice, and a decent weapon damage as well. So I wanted to get these guys stuck in, and they're doing very good against the town garrison that Darren has. Yes, that's what it was. He has an army, a full stack, and then I think a half replenished garrison, but it was the garrison of Rome, so it was actually pretty big. So yeah, so he had kind of like, even though it was like an army and a half, it was basically like an army and a quarter because the garrison's kind of crappy. Yeah, that was his strength. But he had a lot of cavalry and other units like that. You know, his army comp was a lot better. He also managed to get, I kind of completely misstepped. I brought my cavalry out and he just hammered it with his missiles. Really smart. However, this flank is actually going pretty well for me right now. My swords are doing their job and they're doing a lot of damage. However, Darren has overflown this flank, which is really deadly. The center is slowly starting to drip in my favor. There's a few units who are dropping on morale due to casualties and tiredness, but it's just not fast enough. And yeah, things are are still, pretty nerve-wracking. This battle could literally go either way. It's still, it's actually pretty heavily in favor of Darren right now. It's, yeah, he's definitely taking the advantage. So seeing this flank really starting to shake down a little bit is pretty scary because, again, when you overcommit to stuff like this, I'm charging a unit at his missiles. It really opens me up to get, hammered because I have nothing to support this unit with right now. And Darren does have reserves to come in and reinforce this. What's going to happen is this unit's going to engage. I mean, his missiles is going to take a step back to like here. And I'm just going to hammer this unit in the side. So, overstepping my mark here a little bit was pretty brutal. Also, I decided to engage Darren's cavalry here. I know I was heavily outnumbered by his horse. However, something that I love to do in these battles is, if I don't have the cavalry engagement, I kind of, like, the cavalry advantage, I always force the opponent to come to the battle on my terms because it allows me to do stuff like this. Because we're fighting behind my battle line, Darren's infantry is set up over here, mine is set up over here. It allows me to throw my reserves into this battle a lot quicker. It's almost impossible for Darren to get a spare unit of infantry round here to reinforce. However, I can just quickly commit my reserves over to this fight and engage his cavalry, and all of a sudden, Darren's like, oh crap, Jackie's getting all of his infantry in, I need to get this cavalry out here, and now I can pursue with my horses and kill and cut down a lot of his cavalry as he tries to flee from this battle. So, I have to play very defensive with the cavalry, but I think it played an extreme role. Like, obviously, in an ideal world, I would have loved to have got my cavalry round the flank and, started to hit these missiles, but there's nothing I could do about it. So, again, just pursuing his horse is a pretty good idea. And now, all of a sudden, I have some good infantry over on this right flank to reinforce. I know my center is pretty solid, but now I have some swords up on this right flank. I can now commit to the fight. Darren has, done exactly what I said, enveloped me from the front, and is now just hammering me with missiles in the back end. Unfortunately, this was just a misstep by me. What I should have done is I should have just held my position. I maybe should have come in and attacked these guys. Maybe even just took the archer fire. Or just pulled back and maybe engaged from the back, because right now I'm getting shot from the side. And it is pretty deadly. But you can see the cavalry engagement went pretty well. Darren has now reinforced his flank, I think, with another unit of infantry. He's got some more hoplites down here, along with some Carthaginian militias. There's some plebs, nothing too scary. But he has brought his elephants down, and these elephants are really scary. As we are playing with the brand new patch, we are playing with the experimental battle pack, which has made elephants really, really good, which I love. I love the fact that elephants are good. I still have 2 units of javelins, though, which are obviously very, very useful. I brought them down into the forest to try their best to, take down these elephants. But in the latest patch, these elephants take a lot less damage from missiles and a little bit more damage from melee, which, again, I love that change. It's made elephants a lot more competitive, especially when we're playing Seleucus and Carthage in this head-to-head. It's made that a very, very enjoyable experience. He's also brought down his general as well, which, again, is super scary. An entire unit of shot cavalry, the Sacred Band horse. Luckily, it's half strength, but still, that can do a lot of damage. And I don't really have anything to stop him. My cavalry is basically all committed up in this forest. I've managed to get some of my really good offensive sword infantry in onto his kind of more militia infantry. So this fight should be going in my favor. But it's all about that timing, right? All it takes is my cavalry to break, which is looking like it might, because Darren does have a lot of cavalry over here. He's outnumbering me, and I am losing horses. But yeah, as I said, all it takes is this cavalry to break. Darren moves around the flank, he rear charges some of my infantry, and it's over. My right flank is starting to buckle under the pressure of all these missiles. Luckily, I'm taking a handful of his units with me, but I'm going to lose both these units. There's so many missiles coming in. I'm starting to lose my own slingers, which I'm kind of happy with, because losing these slingers is fine. I'd much rather he focuses the slingers who won't do much than kind of my limited infantry. However, he's kind of splitting fire, which is a pretty smart idea. Luckily, though, I am managing to reinforce this, and again, just keeping on putting that pressure on. And at this point, you can see his center is starting to buckle. He has thrown in his elephants right now, but all my javelins are just trying to bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Where's Legolas when you need him to do his acrobatics, his gravity-defying stunts, and kill some of these elephants? And unfortunately, I'm going to be a little bit slow on this micro, and these elephants are going to get in on me and actually start hitting some of these units along with his cavalry. Brilliant support there by Darren. not leaving these elephants to go in by solo, using this cavalry to also hit my units. And I think my legatus is rushing down right now. You can see that my legionary commander is now rushing, or I say rushing, moving extremely slowly to support and relieve the pressure down here in the forest. But, lucky for me, my center is winning. He still does have a decent amount of men in here, but, there are holes appearing in this battle line. I'm trying to get my javelins out and moving on. And again, that's one of the things which are so amazing about Divided Impera. If this unit breaks at any point, this cavalry and these elephants come smashing into the back of my Principes, which would probably be the end of them. Honestly, the shock and devastation that they can cause will just be absolutely huge. I mean, he's trying to bring them out. Actually, the elephants have rampaged right now. But look at this. I'm throwing javelin after javelin. These guys have taken about 6 or 7 volleys, and they're still pretty healthy. And they do actually rampage into the back of my own unit, racking up a decent amount of kills. But luckily, I've managed to kind of nullify that threat. I've kept my javelins back, and I just did not want to commit them. I'm also now hunting down his general as best as I can with my cavalry. The center is basically completely broken, but for Darren. And if we go out to this right flank as well, you can see that his men are starting to break. I am losing a lot of men myself, but the balance of power is still, kind of not quite in my favor, but it's not as bad as it once was. The cavalry is going south for me. Darren is now overrunning me, and this could be pretty deadly. He could bring his cavalry back in and hit me, but at this point, it's kind of a bit too late. His center has broken, which frees up a ton of my heavy infantry for the fight. I've managed to hunt down and I think kill his general as well, or at least his general's about to go down, which is amazing. In these head-to-heads, if you ever get to kill an enemy general, that's huge because they provide so many bonuses in these battles. It's crazy. And when me as the Seleucids and Darren as Carthage come to actually fight one another, it's going to be pretty crazy. It's going to all come down to who has the better generals. It's not going to come down to that, but it's going to be a big role in who wins these battles. And look at this, the elephants are still not dead. This, past minute and a half, I've been throwing javelin after javelin at them, and they're still holding in there, which, again, I love that change. I love how effective elephants can be right now. Darren is, though, still fighting pretty bravely. I've managed to free up so much infantry, though, that is kind of over. He has also managed to envelop one of my hoplite units. However, the rear is still kind of safe, and this is just a lot of light infantry that isn't really going to do much whatsoever. And there you go. Rome is going to take this one. Darren is going to be in a full-on retreat. He still has some cavalry left. He's going to try and basically just get some good charges off on my cavalry. But at this point, victory is at hand. It still says that it's a middle balance of power, but I guess numbers-wise are probably pretty similar, but the units that I have are much superior at this point. I've managed to break a large amount of his line. And Darren is going to retreat off the field of battle, just try and kind of still skirmish, still try and pick off as many casualties. Because again, every casualty Darren does on me is still going to be pretty deadly because, it just means that if he can bring up more armies, it's going to be more effective. It's going to be an easier battle next time. But yeah, winning this battle was huge for Rome. They managed to, not only kill Darren's army and kill his general, which, again, I think it was only a 3-star general. But that adds up, that really, really does make a huge difference the further the campaign does go on and the quicker me and Darren come to clashing. I killed some of his experienced units, which I'm happy with, and, this is going to be costly to rebuild, not only monetarily from the treasury, but also from population. Italy does not have a huge population after Darren has been fighting in it for so long. Cities have, changed back and forth so many times in Italy, that, it's going to be hard for him to completely, rebuild quickly from this. And after this battle, if you're interested, because this was, I think, a stream or 2 ago, this battle took place, Rome did besiege Italy, but they didn't advance the siege into an assault. And then the following turn, Darren did come in and reinforce this army and actually kill it and wipe out the last legion in Italy, which was very, very sad. However, this was an amazing battle. We did heavy damage to Darren. We slowed him up so much that it was absolutely amazing. And even though Rome itself didn't conquer the Italy back itself, didn't get a foothold back in Rome, the glorious city. This was one of my favorite battles, hands down. It really, really was. It was an amazing engagement. There was just so much strategy involved. It was like very split second. And when you're commanding just such large armies, it becomes so goddamn crazy. So yeah, even though Rome didn't capitalize on it, we did an amazing job. We actually managed to win, even though we were a little bit outnumbered, and you know, Darren did have the better army composition. And I think that solely came down. Yeah, look at that. We were outnumbered by a decent amount of men, almost 2,000, like 1,800 men. That's pretty goddamn scary, right? Pretty scary indeed. Now, granted, you know, Darren probably has about 4,000. He probably outnumbered us by about 400 of his main army, and then about 1,500 from a town garrison. But numbers can make a huge difference, and they can really hurt the army. But, you know, Rome's heavy defenses, locking my formation into that woodland area, and just engaging kind of Darren's forces there, it made for a very, very intense battle. And that could have, you know, we could have easily have lost that battle. If Darren could have maybe used his missiles a lot more effectively, he then would have been able to use his cavalry more effectively, enveloped my formation with his numbers, and brought me down. But that would saved my life in that battle. And just made for one hell of an engagement. I mean, look at the kills on these guys as well. They're amazing. They really are. They're kind of a bit outclassed now, but because Darren's using more of a militia army, it's not that effective. Wait, did he have a... He must have had, yeah, he must have had another infantry unit as well, like another army around here. Must have been a small army, but because he only has, what, 4 units of cavalry here, and he had way more than that. So yeah, he must have had this army, maybe a small force, and then a town garrison as well. That probably makes more sense. I mean, you guys will probably see it because I'll cut some footage from the beginning of the battle, and I'll also cut my reaction right now to the end of the battle. But yeah, before we do see that, massive thank you to all my Patreons and YouTube members. I really appreciate the support. If you want to find out how you can support the channel and get some cool bonuses, I'll leave the links down below in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh, the music, listen, let it play, let the bells ring out.